I'm Dan Larkin, and this is Cannabis Conversations for Cannabis in Real Life. Today we're talking with Sara Kietzer. She's part of the Kietzer family farm near Vernon Center, Minnesota, in south central Minnesota, and they're growing hemp, 8 acres to be exact. It's their first venture into this new field, no pun intended. We thought we'd take some time to learn a little bit about their journey into hemp and CBD. You see, Sara also is a proprietor. She owns Journey Organics and sells CBD products from a number of kiosks around the southern Minnesota area. So give a listen as we meet up with Sara at the family farm.
My name is Sara Kietzer and I own Journey Organics in Mankato.
Sara, tell me a little bit about Journey Organics. Where did the journey start?
I began using CBD oil last May, and I was using it for fatigue and chronic neck pain, knee pain. Had such a great result with it. I did more research. I'm a kind of a scientist at heart and very interested in the medical side of things, so I dove into the research to figure out how it was working. And once I learned about the endocannabinoid system and how that functions in the body, it really piqued my interest. And we have a daughter who's medically complex, and so we decided to try CBD for her since there were really no side effects that we had come across. She was having a lot of chronic pain with her health condition. Last Labor Day, we started her with the oil, so just a year ago now, she was no longer complaining of pain after that point. And so her journey with this was really my aha moment that, you know, there definitely is something to this, and with everything that I had learned, I knew it was something I wanted to share in my community.
And what were the next steps then? Once you've determined, hey, this is something that works for me, then what happened?
With the background as a dental hygienist, I didn't have any entrepreneurial experience, so it was really trial by fire. Reached out to the city of Mankato, reached out to other people in the industry that I had found online, researched several months to find a wholesale partner that I trusted, for products that I really felt were highest quality on the market at a good price point, and dove in. I started with a small vendor show in October of last year that went really well. I ended up being the top sales for the whole vendor show, and it was really an education point. Most of the people that came up and spoke with me hadn't even heard of CBD before, but just in talking with them and telling our story, they gave it a try, and it morphed from there, I guess you can say. So November of last year, I went into our local mall, River Hills Mall in Mankato. It was the first CBD store in Mankato for sure, and definitely in southern Minnesota. So definitely got a lot of press and a lot of attention, and I'm just so excited to be a part of the industry and have opened a second location and looking at a third.
What's been the biggest surprise?
Oh, the biggest surprise is probably the acceptance. There's so much to the stigma of, is this marijuana? But then when you start talking to people, start explaining the science behind it, people really can get behind it. They can trust that it's something that's beneficial to them. Many people are looking to get away from pharmaceuticals. There's so many side effects that people don't like, and I think people just in general are looking for ways to improve their health.
Now, we happen to be here by a field. Why don't you tell everybody where we are and what's happening here?
So we are south of Mankato, Minnesota, a little west of our town, Vernon Center. Very small little town on the map here. And we decided with our experience with, my store and just the more we learned about everything, as my husband and his father farmed together conventional corn and soybeans, we decided that maybe it was time to diversify the crop here, give it a try, learn more about the plant, understand it better, which, I feel helps me to understand my products better and be able to talk to my customers in, more of a well-rounded fashion about what this CBD thing is all about.
So this is an organic field?
Yes. So everything is grown using organic growing practices. So we have literally been out with hoes, hoeing 8 acres for weed control. We did do wide enough plant spacing so that we could cultivate with a small little John Deere tractor that we had. So that helped with cultivation in between the rows. But yeah, the meat and bones of it, there's been many miles put on walking up and down each row, hoeing. We did have some pest issues early on, and we had to reach out to growers and experts that we've collaborated with to learn what we could do safely, because we're creating a consumable product, and we're turned on to what we could spray to take care of that, and we just have tried to be as attentive as we can.
What are you looking forward to most with this crop?
harvest, getting it out of the field, not having to worry about weather issues anymore. Being a new crop or a crop that's being reintroduced, I guess, into the ag community, there isn't such a thing as multi-peril crop insurance available. So we've had 2 pretty severe windstorms that we've dealt with, which caused some wind damage to the plants, some tipping, and the latest windstorm, we were pretty devastated. We went through and staked up about 500 plants, and we're pretty worried that we might lose a vast majority of them. But one thing that we have learned is that this plant is extremely hardy. It wants to grow, it wants to produce its fruit, so to speak, and even the stalks that were most greatly damaged are still kicking. They're still with us.
Well, you, your husband, your family, looks like they're actually enjoying themselves with this new venture. What makes this so fun?
I think it's a challenge. It's a learning curve for us. We've networked and done just so much to learn about this crop and learn about this entire industry as a whole, really. And, with the farming background, my husband has always been passionate about farming. His dad has farmed for 45 years, and it's a way to connect with our environment where we live here. It's interesting to walk through and, admire each and every plant because they're a little bit different in their own way, and it gives us time to as a family. Some days are longer than others. We were busy people with me owning my own store, and I, for quite a while, worked full-time alongside of that, and then I decided to become a hemp farmer on top of it. So there's not a lot of spare minutes in the day, but we're looking forward to what harvest will bring and then expanding for next year.
Are you surprised that you're a hemp farmer?
Absolutely, yes. I don't know that back in Labor Day of last year when I decided to open my retail store that was necessarily in my scope, but the more that we've learned about it, we've gone to several conferences and things, and just realized that was really something that I felt would be important to bring as a value to our farm and to my business.
What would you say to somebody who's still skeptical, doesn't understand CBD?
I think the biggest thing as far as education is understanding the science behind it, really just understanding the endocannabinoid system, how it works. At my kiosk, I kind of have a list of things, have you ever been affected by this A to Z list? And sometimes you get the eye roll or, how could it possibly help with all of these different things? But once you understand how it's working in the body as far as reducing inflammation and helping with pain relief, stimulating that ECS system to get the receptors fired up and ready to go, and helping your body to get back into balance, have enough neurotransmitters there to keep that system active and functioning optimally, it kind of all starts making sense. Many people approach me and they try CBD because they're looking for pain relief primarily, and then usually the next dialogue when I see their smiling face again, a month or 2 later, it's, does it help with sleep? Or, man, I'm feeling less anxious. And so it surprises them what a overall impact it has on their health and well-being.
Who are your customers?
I would say my target market is pretty much 45 to maybe even 75. I was a little surprised that it's pretty well split between men and women. I predicted that I would have, a higher bank of women customers, but it's almost pretty even. And I have a very, small group of parents that are interested in CBD for their children that are having, anxiety issues, focus issues at school. I had a mom come up to me last winter that said they had just had conferences, and it was really encouraging. Her son's teachers were explaining how he had, just was a new kid at school. He was able to focus. And so there's so many pieces and parts that come into play, and you learn from your customers. It's been a humbling journey. You're talking to everybody on their worst day usually, and then they come back and they're doing much better, and there's surprised, but really pleased.
This is like having to pick your favorite child, but do you have a favorite product?
Oh boy. Well, I used the tinctures early on and really liked them. They were effective and worked well for me, but with my hectic schedule, tinctures generally are more than once a day to really get the maximum benefit. And so I did switch to the soft gel formulation so that I take it in the morning before I leave and before the day completely gets crazy, and then I know I've had it for the day and am doing fine.
What do you say to that person who says, I'm afraid to try it?
I want people to understand, most importantly, that, especially those that are really concerned about it, being marijuana or being something that is illegal. I just really try to reinforce the fact that, it's working naturally with what our body is already trying to do. And that is why it is so effective for such a wide array of different problems and symptoms that people encounter. I really like to hone home that there are no known or established side effects at this time. I try to encourage people to let them know that there is indeed research out there. We sometimes forget it's a global medical and science community, and I've found several online resources that have peer-reviewed articles from scientific and medical journals that I have shared with people in the past. And if somebody is really concerned, if they're very medically complex, I'm there to help somebody's livelihood, not to cause them any trouble. So I don't hesitate to encourage them to speak with their medical doctor. And it surprises me day by day, more and more people come up and will make the comment that their doctors have encouraged them to try it, but they aren't necessarily advocating for it or advertising that they're talking about it in the doctor's offices. But the acceptance is there, and I truly feel that deep down the doctors know the science behind it and will be on board as soon as they get the go-ahead.
How important is it to know your CBD?
For me, that is critical. Early on, when I was trying to find a safe product, I was frustrated by not knowing what I could trust, what information was accurate. There's certain safeguards in the industry because it is relatively unregulated right now as far as lack of guidance from the FDA. But you want to make sure that you're having a certificate of analysis. Every batch needs to be verified that it's free of harmful substances, pesticides, metals. The plant itself is interesting. It cleans the soil. It's a phytoremediator. And those things can, bleed over into your final product if not grown or processed correctly. And then also third-party lab testing, somebody independent of that company that can verify that quality. One thing that I really liked about the products that I chose to carry with my wholesale provider is that everything is produced in a CGMP certified plant. So they've gone that one extra additional layer where the FDA has come in, actually tracks the progress from the field all the way to that final product that hits my shelves. And those are assurances that my competitors in southern Minnesota aren't offering, and that's concerning to me. I really feel that people need to start asking those questions. And whenever they're buying CBD, the people that they're buying it from should be able to answer questions and should know what's on their shelves.
What's the favorite part of your day?
Favorite part of my day? Customer interaction is really, has always been a joy for me. I've been in patient care with my career for 11 years, being able to help people with what they're going through and what they're dealing with. And seeing that smile on their face at the end of the day.
Do you have a favorite saying or motto that motivates you?
Definitely Know Your CBD. That's been on my website since its inception way back in January or whatever it was, which seems like a lifetime ago already. But just definitely, patience in the process sometimes is what I tell people. With the oil tinctures, you're starting low dose and you want to, slowly increment up to get to your therapeutic dose. And that doesn't always happen overnight. The damage doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes the improvement doesn't happen overnight.
Let's talk about the farm operation. Mm-hmm. How did you decide how to go about this and what was important?
Well, I've always said from the beginning that I'm the imposter farmer. So I'm a dental hygienist is my background. My husband and father-in-law definitely are the farm minds here on the farm. But we picked up some really good nuggets early on. Fit it to your farm. Don't reinvent the wheel. And that actually led us down a direction a little bit different than others have been doing as far as planting their crop. My husband, through his full-time job, builds planters with certain technology that helps to singulate seeds and improve yields for corn and soybeans. And with his access to the technology, the engineers that he works with normally, he was able to create and build a custom planter so that we actually did seed to soil. I have some tweaks and things that we'd like to do differently next year, but overall very pleased with our stand and how that came to be. One thing that we're seeing in southern Minnesota that has presented some concern for ourselves and for some of the other farmers in the area, the industry is in its infancy in Minnesota, and we're already seeing some really not so great business practices coming about. Farmers are kind of getting signed into long-term contracts, exclusivity contracts, things like that. And at the end of the day, that is not to the benefit of the farmer. This is a very lucrative industry right now. We hope it maintains that or is able to continue on. But once you're locked into a contract with one group or one organization, it really puts the farmer at the mercy of the pricing that they set and promise you. And it's sad to see this early on. And so part of the education piece that I've done in some other publications locally is just encouraging farmers to do their due diligence. It's very much an eyes wide open industry, and the more people you can talk and collaborate with, the better.
How can people get a hold of you if they have questions about that?
So they can reach me by phone, 507-327-4745. Also via email, sarah.kietzer@journeyorganics.com is a great way to get a hold of me. Otherwise, swing by the store. We can meet face to face if you've got questions on either the growing side or for the products themselves. I'm more than happy to answer questions. Nobody leaves my kiosk without a business card and an encouraging word to call me if they encounter any questions.
You've been listening to Cannabis Conversations from Cannabis in Real Life. I'm Dan Larkin. Be sure to check out more Cannabis Conversations and all of our great content at Cannabis in Real Life, CannabisIRL.com. Real people, real stories, real life. Boomer's #1 source for all things cannabis.